Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dietary Lifestyle Transformation. Hope everyone had a good last week. I know we did. We went to Chattanooga. That was a fun little break for us. We something we didn't realize that was going to happen is that the time changed while we were there, and it was also an Eastern time zone. So with two kids going 2 hours ahead was interesting, to say the least. It's paid off since we've gotten home, though. Everyone's sleeping till 7 a.m. It's nice. Um, but we're having to keep them up until 9 o'clock in Chattanooga to kind of stay with our Memphis time zone. So that was fun. But any other success for this week? Let us know in the chat box. Any meals you're enjoying? Anything going particularly well? Let us know. Last week's presentation, I hope you got to go through it, but we have optimized the diet. We've implemented fasting. We're moving our body. We're improving our overall well-being with sleep and stress and emotions. And then the last few weeks are creating these lasting lifestyle changes. So last week I dove into some plateau traps. Did any other plateau traps resonate with you? Here, I'll pull them up for us. Fatty beverages, still using sugar, thirst versus hunger, snacking, eating late, nuts and dairy. What are you struggling with? If any of these, have you overcome all of these? Or is there one in particular that's really just getting you still? So, nuts and dairy, yeah. Nuts and dairy are hard and they're really easy to go overboard with because you're like, but they're a fat. So you can still overeat them. Eating late is tough too. I I think I told y'all that I drink decaffeinated tea at night, and that's really helpful. Just having something, because I was so used to doing that too, especially after getting two little ones to bed, and that's just so stressful. Once it's over with, you're like, I need to decompress. And we talked about how the art of chewing or the act of chewing actually calms you down. So there's a reason that we do it. And also, like, just it's almost like a celebration that the day is done. But we talked about other things. Has anyone else in the group found other things that they can do at night to avoid eating? I would love to hear what y'all are doing. I take a hot shower and I drink some decaf tea. Those are my two things that really help. And I brush my teeth, that came from Leah Lansky, our director. Yeah, go to sleep. Um, yeah, sometimes I just go to sleep too. That's helpful. And getting more sleep, the better. I've been reading in bed the last couple nights. My 3-year-old, I've probably told y'all, she's kind of crazy. So I'm reading a parenting book right now, which puts me right to bed. I keep falling asleep with it in my bed. Cross stitch. That's pretty cool. I don't know that I've ever tried that. Um, okay. So late night eating, anything else holding you back? Nuts and dairy. So make sure you're portion controlling the nuts and dairy. It's a 1/4 cup for nuts. And I will say that nut butter is easier to overeat on because it's harder to measure out. Like you're probably not going to get a tablespoon out. But if you're having trouble with it, I would do nuts instead of nut butter. And I would measure out the nuts. And then especially if that's like something you're adding, like if you're adding to meals, you know, try to include other things too. So whenever I have like my go-to meal right now for lunch is full fat yogurt with peanut butter, flaxseed, some type of berries, and cinnamon. And I found like just going ahead and making that helps me to not overeat on the peanut butter because it's already made and that's all I have is what's in the container. So pre-portioning out those types of things can be really helpful. All right. Cleaning. Awesome. Cleaning. Snacking. Snacking, my recommendation for snacking is just to add it to the meals. So again, back to my lunch situation, I love yogurt, I love peanut butter, I like berries, I love all those things, but it's not really enough to make a meal. So I've put other things that I like to snack on in the meals. So in another section, I'll put carrots and hummus, and that's been really good. You could do broccoli and hummus, you could do whatever vegetables. Those like little mini peppers are great with hummus. And then I've been roasting sweet potatoes. I just like half them. If you half them and put them like face down on the pan where the skin is up and the inside is down on the pan, and roast them in like olive oil, cinnamon, and salt, really good. It gets like caramelized on the top of the sweet potato, and I add that into my lunch too. And I eat that one. I eat the sweet potato last. So we talked about eating the carb last if we're going to have it, and portion controlling the carb too is important. So I only do half of one, with like the carrots and hummus and with the yogurt and the berries and the peanut butter. So like I don't know, like that's all snacky stuff to me. I feel like that I just combine into making a meal. So meals don't have to look the way we've always thought they did. Like they don't have to be an entree with sides or like a huge salad or anything. I like to do my salads at night. But anyway, those are my 2 cents on snacking, eating late, fatty beverages. Coming back from vacation, I decided to cut the fat out of my coffee and out of my tea. And I will say I'm on day 3 and I'm still here. I'm surviving. And it's honestly made the fasting so much easier. Not having that, so I was reading about it, how even like that fat in your coffee or tea can start churning your digestive enzymes and make you hungrier earlier than you want to be. So I'm going to talk today about a true fast, which of course would not include fats in our beverages. They've never really held me back, but I will say they make fasting easier if we don't have them. All right. Sweeteners. I know those are probably tough. Thirst versus hunger. Okay, we mentioned the other ones. Let's talk about a true fast. Why? Why do we care about doing a true fast? Now, a true fast is where we don't have any of those training wheels, i.e., like the fat in our coffee or broth that I mentioned you could use, or pickle juice or things like that. You're really just drinking water, black coffee, black tea in a true fast. But why do we want to do a true fast? So the way we live can have a significant impact on our health and longevity. The stressors we expose our bodies to, the foods we eat, and the way we sleep all affect how long we're going to live. So eating a high carb diet, especially high in sugar, speeds up our aging process, and there's chronic elevation of oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. Oxidative stress causes disease. Fasting allows our body to shift to a catabolic state of autophagy, and this is where our body will eat up dysfunctional cell components. And dysfunctional cell components are what create or cause inflammation, illness, disease. It causes our skin to wrinkle. So all the signs of aging that start to occur are coming from these dysfunctional cell components. And you can read more into that or listen to a podcast on it. It's pretty interesting how our cells work, but autophagy eats up the dysfunctional cells, which is a really good thing for us. And research shows fasting is one of the most potent stimulators of autophagy. So therefore, fasting has been shown to downregulate our gene expression associated with or involved in the oxidative stress and the oxidative damage that can occur in our body. Therefore, it lowers chronic inflammation and it restores hormonal balance and sensitivity to a degree for a more favorable, healthy environment, meaning our bodies internally are just healthier and they can combat illness and they can combat aging and all these things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. When does the autophagy start is a very mysterious question, but on average, it starts around the 16-hour mark. But it really depends on the person, and it depends on your metabolism. And it also depends on what you're eating when you are in a feasting state. So the faster you get into like shifting your body over into utilizing the fat storage, the faster you enter into autophagy. Now, if your body has a lot of carbs stored up in it, it's got to utilize all those carbs first before it's going to tap into any fat storage, before it's going to start kicking over into autophagy. So keep that in mind. Around 16 hours, and then it continues from there. So if you did a 16 or 18-hour fast every day, you would get some form of autophagy. You might get, I mean, it just depends on how long you go past the fast, really. So I'm like on vacation and things like that. I'm like, all right, I'm going to do a 16-8 fast. Because that's just how it works out. And then on days where things are more consistent, I'll try to do the 18-6. So maybe I'm in autophagy for like 2 hours. Who knows? But if you were to go to a 24-hour fast, you would have an even longer period in that autophagy state. So consider it. I'll talk more on our fasting regimens. But here's the science behind our fasting and what it's going to do for our body. Number 6 is increased autophagy, and that's probably one of the bigger motivators for me personally is autophagy, reducing that oxidative damage and inflammation in the body, the healing of the body. I love that. There's some other things that are going on way beyond weight loss. One is growth hormone increase, which not only preserves your muscle mass, but it can actually help cause growth in muscle, bone density, and cartilage. The norepinephrine increases, which has been shown to have an effect on the mind as well as the body. High levels of that increase our mental alertness and boost our metabolism of fat. And then the leptin sensitivity, I really enjoy this one. Just like feeling less hungry, feeling less controlled by the need to eat all the time. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor increases, which helps to stimulate neural growth in the brain. Sure, we all need that. And then insulin sensitivity increases. So short term, this can benefit you by directing carbs to your muscles for muscle gains rather than being converted to fat. Conversely, being insulin insensitive long term leads to type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, and heart disease. Now, I'm so sensitive to sugar at this point because I just don't eat it very much. I'm just curious with y'all, now that you are hopefully have gotten most of the sugar out of your day-to-day diet, are you noticing any difference when you do eat it, like how it makes you feel? That would be insulin sensitivity, like feeling your insulin rise up because of something like sugar or carbs. So just a quick summary on our benefits of fasting before I ask you to consider a true fast. I just want to remind you that intermittent fasting is helpful for fat loss, improves that insulin sensitivity, lowers our blood pressure, reduces oxidative stress, improves our brain health, increases autophagy, and overall improves our immune system. So find your fasting regimen. Do you feel like y'all have already found your fasting regimen, or are you still trying to figure it out? What is the ideal protocol, you might ask? At least a 16-8. But an 18-6 is even better. So if you get to 16 hours and you're doing great, go 2 more hours. And then there's the 24-hour. If you just want to make sure that you've hit autophagy and that you've stayed in it long enough to really help that cellular turnover, you could do the 24-hour 1 or 2 times a week, or you could do it every day. That might sound crazy, but my husband, who is like, I don't know, he's just not a very, I wouldn't call him like the healthiest person in the world, but he can do a 24-hour fast every day. It's really impressive. I can't do it. I mean, I haven't tried, but I like to I like to have lunch and dinner. I have done a 24-hour fast before, but they're harder. If you can do it once a week, that's fantastic. If you want to try it a couple times a week, that's awesome. Here's what the 24-hour protocol would look like if you did like your 18-6 most days of the week, and then you did, just a reminder what the 24 looks like. You would do lunch on Sunday to lunch on Monday. And it doesn't have to be that day. Like it could be any day, but you're eating lunch to lunch instead of like these are dinner to lunch, dinner to lunch, dinner to lunch. You're going lunch to lunch. And that's a 24-hour fast. You're never not eating a meal on a day, but you're going from lunch one day to lunch the next. So it is 24 hours. Remember your fasting fluids, your water, your coffee, your tea, and with a true fast, taking the training wheels out of these and drinking, drinking it black if possible. It really does help. This week, I just want you to try it. If you haven't yet, consider a true fast and mindfully adjust where you need to with these plateau traps and with the coffee or the tea, if you are willing to try it, just see what it feels like. Determine if there's a difference. And then in closing, my final tips or final takeaways are really what fasting does for us. So I read a book about feasting and fasting, and the lady brought up a good point about how fasting really helps us to grow and learn that we do not have to be controlled by our food or our timing of meals. We don't have to be controlled by all these things. We can be empowered through fasting by being self-sufficient and not being dependent on the fat and the sugar in our coffee, or maybe giving up the coffee altogether, the caffeine altogether, giving up that sugar. Same thing as nicotine. It's just so addicting, and food can be the same way. So it's really empowering when you can get away from like having to have the carbs, having to have carbs with every meal, having to have the bread, all those things. And eventually, I hope that you feel that you're less hungry, because fasting really resets those hunger hormones, like your ghrelin and your leptin. And then you can start to understand what real hunger actually feels like, because you're not feeding every few hours or so. You also no longer depend on sugars and carbs and food for energy, which means your body stops sending hunger signals when that energy runs out, because you're using the stored body fat instead. So that's how we end up on like eating like 5 times a day, is because we're including like sugars and carbs. And as soon as they run out, we need more. It's an addictive thing. If we can get away from those, get more empowered, we'll also get less hungry, and we'll start to understand our body, begin to understand emotional, psychological, physical attachments to food in profound new ways, and understanding again what real hunger feels like. In America, I suspect most of us don't feel real hunger too often. There's just such an abundance of food around us at all times, but there is a boost within our body if we can withstand from the food. All right, supercharged. The combination of using fat for fuel, freeing up energy from digestion and release of hormones like norepinephrine mean you are on one stable energy level all day long. So saying goodbye to the mid-morning and mid-afternoon slumps. That's super powerful too. I mean, just feeling good all day long and having level energy is awesome, and it gives you confidence. You lose that fear of having an empty stomach or getting hungry. You begin to understand that you're not designed to be constantly digesting food and that virtually every system in your body optimizes when you spend some time in the fasted state. I like totally get this confident one because I used to be fearful that when we would travel with friends places, I would be fearful that we would have to wait too long to eat breakfast. I don't really like eating on other people's schedules because I would eat like every 3 or 4 hours, and if I didn't, I would start getting really irritated. And it was almost like a fear of, I hope they want to eat breakfast as soon as we wake up because that's when I'm eating. But it's like so freeing not having to feel that way, not having to feel absolutely ravished when you wake up, just working your body out of that constant need of food, and just using what your body already has. All right, y'all, that's what I have for this week. And let me know any thoughts in the chat box or feedback. We have one more week left. So if there's anything that I haven't hit on in the last 11 weeks, y'all let me know. You can put it in the chat box or you can email it to me. Anything that you want to know about for week 12, I'll add it in. Just let me know what you need. And y'all have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.